Hey everyone, welcome to Power Hour. We're going to get going in just another minute or two. Hey folks, welcome in. We're going to get started in just a minute or so. We're just giving folks a second so that they join us and they don't miss any of this. We will absolutely record this and make sure we provide link and we'll provide resources, all the things at the end. So no worries on that. So just give us one more minute, we'll get started. All right. It's a couple minutes after the hour. Some people are still joining, but let's kick this off and get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome. As many of you know, my name is Dee Zeff. I'm Chief Product Officer here at Syncro. Excited that you are all here and grateful you're taking the time out to attend. This series is really all about helping you get more out of using Syncro. We're trying to provide you with real world guidance and examples and direct access to both Syncro experts as well as external experts to help you just see how other people are using the platform. So hopefully you can walk away with some actionable things. Today's session is all about taking command of your workflows and using scripting with GitHub. And so I'm joined today by Jasper Grewal from ROI Technology. Jasper is a Syncro partner, a member of our Partner Advisory Council. Some of you have seen him here before. He's been gracious enough to come help us out a couple of times, which I really appreciate. And he's really built a strong automation library and has it all in GitHub and is going to kind of walk everyone through today how you can all do that too if you want to have versioning and kind of all the different things that come with having all the benefits that come with having scripts shared in GitHub. Before I hand it over to Jasper, just a couple of quick notes on the session. We are recording it. It's going to be available in the Syncro community after, along with some key takeaways and resources. So you'll have everything you need there to follow up. And then as questions come up for you throughout the session, if you would drop them into the Q&A and not in the chat, using the Q&A is going to help Jasper and I at the end of this kind of going through and answering as many questions as we possibly can from all of you. And so with that, let me hand it over to Jasper.
Awesome. Thanks, Dee. Really excited to show everyone what we've built. Just a really quick agenda. We're going to try to cover, if you've never set up a GitHub repo before, I'll show you kind of what the repo build process looks like. We'll talk about fine-grained personal access tokens, and we'll generate one. There's kind of two components to the, I guess you call it an integration that we built. There's kind of a setter script and a wrapper script. We'll talk about kind of security implications of both and how to use them. And then I'll take a script and actually build it in GitHub and then import it into Syncro and use the wrapper and the setter and kind of how those work together. And then at the end, we'll talk about some security considerations. So I've got a lot to cover, so I'm going to just jump right into it. So alrighty, if you've never built a repo before, it's pretty straightforward. In GitHub, your repo, you can call it whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. I've got one that I've already built that is empty, used just for this. So we'll use this guy here. The best way that we found to get data out of GitHub in a secure fashion is with fine-grained personal access tokens. The way you create that when you're logged in and you're in your repo, just go to settings, all the way down to the bottom to developer settings, and we can go fine-grained access tokens. So I'll delete my test token and we'll just create a new one. With the wrapper insider that we're using, the only permissions you need are read. So we'll pick the specific repo. And really just contents. And then it's going to grab this metadata. That's fine. Generate the token. Doesn't really matter if anyone grabs that. This is literally an empty repo for this. Okie dokie. So there's two components to what we've built. There's a setter script and there's a framework wrapper script. The setter script, we've kind of gone through a few versions of it. The old version of this used that personal access token in every script in Syncro, and it didn't have the setter script. Obviously, that's bad. We're talking plain text, and you've got to touch every script in Syncro to make it work correctly. The next iteration of it used environment variables, machine environment variables, but those are technically readable by anyone on the workstation, whether they have local admin rights or not. So what we've kind of settled on is this sort of two-pronged approach using a specific script to set a encrypted token on to set that personal access token on the machine in an encrypted file using the Windows Data Protection API. And then there's some entropy that gets seeded in there as well, just to kind of salt that. We use ACLs to make sure that the bin file is not touchable by anything except for system or anyone in the local admin group. So assuming you're following best practices, no one has local admin rights, this is a pretty safe way to do this. The token's read only, so the impact is kind of low if someone gets their hands on it, but we don't like people seeing our stuff anyway. So in Syncro, if we come in here, we need to create this is that setter script. And I'll give Caitlin and the Syncro folks access to a repo that has this information in it. So we'll just create a new script. And we'll say /just token setter. Drop that in here. We want to define two variables. Specifically, we want to make sure we're defining our GitHub path. Actually, no, sorry. We'll do that at runtime. And I'll show you why in just a second, but we also want to define two options. If you have changes to the token later, you want to make sure you're forcing that update, then we'll set this guy to yes and no. If anyone throws questions out there, I know I'm going quick, so just interrupt me.
I will. I'll stop you as you're going through. And so just so I'm understanding where you're at and maybe to catch folks up if they hopped in. So you created a new repo in GitHub and then you generated an access token, and now you are in the process of showing us how you securely make that access token available to Syncro scripts so that way they can run. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So we encrypt the token on each workstation individually. So it uses the data protection API that's built into Windows, and then it uses some entropy from the local machine at runtime so that secret is encrypted in a unique way on every workstation. So we're going to deploy it with a policy in just a second here to tie back to the last power hour I did. So really quick, these two options are exactly what they sound like. You can force the token to update. By default, if you rerun this and it sees the token's already there, it's going to skip it just to save resources. Or if you're offboarding a client, you might want the clear variable option just to kind of take yourself out of that environment, make your scripts no longer useful on that endpoint. So we'll set that guy. And then if you're an all Windows shop and you followed along with last power hour, you can just drop this straight into your default top level. If you're not an all Windows shop, you'll want to apply it at a policy level that only hits Windows devices. We usually do a setup script. Save and run. And then let me grab my token. So the benefit to doing it this way is the way that I'm showing now is that this token's only in Syncro in one place, which is wherever you run this script at runtime. It's not stored in script itself. Schedule. So we'll usually do something like this. So in this way, that token is set, this personal access token is set on every workstation, every device in Syncro, and it's only decrypted at runtime. Let's grab a script out of here. Okay, sorry, part 2 is the framework script. This is sort of the meat and potatoes. This is what's going to actually go and grab your payload from GitHub, perform some checks on the workstation that it's running on to make sure that the personal access token file exists. It's going to decrypt the file, store that in a variable, download the payload and run it, and then clean up after itself. So clear variables, make sure the secrets are encrypted, delete any payload that's left over, just kind of clean the system up a little bit. And then it's going to give you some diagnostic output, as well as the output of the payload itself. So all you have to do to deploy this, to deploy a script with this, if I come in here and grab this guy. So if I grab the framework script, we usually throw an identifier if we're converting our scripts just at the front. You can do GH or GitHub just to let your text know this script actually doesn't exist directly in Syncro. It exists in GitHub and it's being invoked by Syncro. So this is our framework script. The only thing you have to change in here is grab the URL of the script, the payload from GitHub that you want to deploy, and just replace this guy right here. That's all you gotta do. So if I take a look at an asset, we should be able to see that that personal access token ran. Maybe not yet. Okay, so let's run really quick. Well, I'll have to wait for the script to actually run in Syncro.
The perils of a live demo.
Okay.
Perfect.
So this one completed. So it's going to give us a path to where the encrypted personal access token file lives. So now if I run GPS, just created. Okay, so this is what the framework wrapper script is giving us as output. It's letting us know where the original script was. It's letting us know whether or not we're doing run as user context. It's creating the directories, downloading the script from GitHub, and then running it. And then this is the output of everything. This is what you would have seen if you ran the script that I imported directly in Syncro. And then it's confirming that it did all of the cleanup processes. So it's giving you the information to troubleshoot where things go wrong if they do, as well as the output of whatever payload you're running on the workstation or server. In Syncro, just quick recap, all I've got in here is literally the framework wrapper script with the link to, where it exists in GitHub. Any version, any changes I make to this guy are all tracked in GitHub. So if I come in here and say, whoopsie doodle, made a change, that's now able to, you can see the version history and see who made what changes and when and where. You also get the folderization benefits of GitHub. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell what we've built. Any questions before we talk about security considerations?
I think no questions have come in so far.
Okay.
I'm the one thing I might want to just have you touch on would be as you went down this path, maybe talking a little bit about like why you were like wanted to get all these into GitHub and maybe what some of the things it's unlocked for you.
Yeah, so for us, some of the challenges with scripting specifically was it's a list. Um, it's a very nice list, but it's a list. So if we, let's say we make a change to a script and maybe someone didn't test it outside of Syncro first, they tested in production. There's no way to revert that change. And so it's Syncro is very much giving you the keys to the kingdom. Like it's you can shoot yourself in the foot if you're not careful. If you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna make a mess of things. So this just adds that extra layer of like we don't want maybe level 1 technicians to have the ability to touch scripts directly. So this gives us a little extra security layer. So we can take away the ability for anyone to create, edit, or delete scripts directly in Syncro, except for people that should be doing that. This gives us the ability to remove our work product from someone's environment when we're done. So we can clear that token, and now if there are leftover remnants of a script that still exist on a workstation, they're not useful anymore. The folderization was really helpful. Being able to just kind of organize things and you know, if you've got you know, installation files versus diagnostic files versus customer specific scripts. You can kind of sort those things into their own buckets. But really the change management was the big
Right.
thing for us. Being able to edit things and revise things like the Windows 11 upgrade scripts, for example. Those we went through, I don't know how many revisions before we finally had one that was working really well. Um,
Right. A question came in, Jasper, and I think you touched on it, but it might be worth like fully spelling it out, which is like, how do you test these changes kind of without committing changes that would affect live scripts? Can you like talk about how that works?
yeah, I mean, any change you make in here is there's the full log of every change that was made. So like I threw this comment pound symbol in there to comment out that line, and you can see who made what change and when. So this is how you see what changes have been made. We don't test scripts in Syncro. We test them like in our own development environment. But if you have devices in Syncro that you want to test the scripts on, this is how you do it. You could branch it. So you could oh gosh, we can create a branch. Yes, we get a new branch. And so now inside of our demo branch, if I want to work with this for a minute, um, you know, we can grab this path, drop it into the same place. And now we're using that branch.
Got it. So if you wanted to like create a test version of it inside of Syncro, you
Mhm.
could create something, leave your live scripts just running, kind of push this in here, test it out, and
Yeah,
then commit your changes. Great.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, Another question, and if these are things you're going to cover later, there's definitely a lot of questions. One is like kind of and you've touched on this a bit. What are the benefits of GitHub? And then there's like are the scripts public and can they be shared easily with other folks?
So that's kind of up to you as the owner of the repository. This demo repository is, I believe, public. Our production environment is not public. It's definitely a private repo. We rotate our tokens somewhat regularly. That was the other benefit of having the setter script, is that we only need to change that token in one place to have it update for everybody. So we'll issue a new token, run the setter script, let it run for a week, and then revoke the old token. Um, the original version of this framework wrapper, you had to actually define the token in every script entry in Syncro, and then it's in plain text, and anyone can touch it, and everyone has to have access to it to do anything. So the value of this is that there's really only one place you set that token, and you can change it at any time. If you have, for example, customer-specific repositories, if you have a customer that has their own PowerShell scripts, maybe it's a co-managed environment, this should work just fine for the same thing. You just need to get that fine-grained access token that has read-only, and then the individual paths to the PowerShell scripts. So you can go really granular. There's that graph that I'm sure every single person on this call has seen. Security goes up and usability goes down. So it's kind of up to you where you want to land in that. But for us, rotating the tokens regularly, having a private repository with just our access to it, and limiting who can see and touch that was enough.
Great, great. A couple of detailed questions are, is there a way to pass parameters to the script that's running kind of inside this framework?
Yeah, it actually reads every parameter that is in the entry in Syncro. So if I define, I'll give an example actually. So we'll say log message. Watch me get caught up in like a CDN and not actually have this work right. There is sometimes I've noticed with GitHub a lag time of up to about 15 minutes for a change to get picked up. And I think it's just like a content delivery network issue. Let's see that. Oops. Did I grab the wrong? I did grab the wrong.
It's fun to watch you think about what's
I know.
not working. Actually, I think it's a learning event anyway, just to even see someone like working in this and kind of going, all right, where does he look? What's he going to go look at?
Am I still in? I'm not. There you go. There's the log message. So the payload is aware of, and I think this is a function of the actual Syncro module that we import at the very beginning of every PowerShell script anyway. But it's aware of whatever these variables are that you define in Syncro within the payload itself.
Got it. And so I think this is the same answer to this next question, which they came in at like the same time, which is if a script contains variables from Syncro, like an asset name or whatever, how do
Yep.
you pass that through? And so it's just right here.
Yep. It
Perfect.
just works.
That's awesome. One other question is, so does this mean you essentially are running kind of two scripts now for any task to get the results and output from a script that you're running through GitHub?
Yes and no. Yes, but the framework script is fairly short, and it's really just here to facilitate the connection with GitHub. So it is downloading that raw PS1 file from GitHub, putting it in a temporary location, running it, and then cleaning everything up when it's done. So you're not leaving a bunch of like leftover script files behind. You are running two scripts effectively, but it's it's 2025. We're talking like megabytes of memory here, not nothing crazy.
Got it. All right. And then, oh, there's a question here about, is there a way to test these scripts on like a sandbox version of Windows? Is that just a
I
matter of
mean,
which machines you run them on and kind of what you
yeah,
choose to do? Yeah,
sure.
great.
A couple of cheap Dell micros off eBay or something, or VM on your test
Absolutely.
environment.
Um, Someone was asking for a little bit more detail around the tokens and kind of what, like kind of what you mean and like what those are for and like just a little bit more, maybe to like walk back over it a little slower. I think for folks that are unfamiliar with it, it maybe went a little fast.
Sure. So within GitHub, we ROI Technology don't like our repository of scripts and things to be public. So in order to facilitate a programmatic way of accessing the scripts and information that we want to use in Syncro, we want to create what are called fine-grained access tokens. So within your GitHub account, you can define a token. So we'll just call it, doesn't really matter. You can call it whatever you want, doesn't matter. We want to let this token contextually only be able to read from the repository of scripts. And then we want to make sure that this token only has permissions to read the contents of this repository. So in that way, the scripts are all stored in GitHub. The wrapper in Syncro has a token, basically, a password effectively, that it can use to then reach out to GitHub, get a copy of that script, run it, do what it needs to do. Does that hopefully answer the question?
I think so. I think so. And that ties into some of the benefit for you of using this, right? So GitHub obviously by its very nature gives you versioning and branching and the ability to track every single change so you can see who on your team is in there making changes to scripts and and when the changes were made and what the changes were. You can diff the changes, kind of all the things that come with um, just using a repository like that. But then this for you also, and it feels like it gives you more control over who's allowed to go and edit scripts versus who's just running them and kind of gives you that ability to do that as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, Syncro already has really good controls around who can do what. But the nightmare scenario for an MSP is, and we saw this with a hack of another well-known RMM. Somebody gets into a privileged account in the RMM tool and is then able to either deploy their own scripts or edit your scripts that you already have there to infect your entire account base. That's not a Syncro problem. That's a general technology problem. So if we take away the ability for most accounts, any daily driver accounts, to edit scripts, create scripts, delete scripts, and then we control the content in GitHub, that adds a second place that somebody would have to compromise, and they would have to be in both places to really do any damage. It's just kind of like limiting the scope of an attack, limiting the blast radius, we say.
Yep, absolutely. Um, One other question, and I think once again it's tied into something we've already
Yeah.
answered, but the scripts that you're running inside of Syncro, like the inner scripts, not the wrapper, can they easily just write back to Syncro, like log activity, set asset fields, kind of do all the things that a
Everything,
script would typically do?
yeah, everything you can do with a script that's already in Syncro works natively. So like, for example, we ran this get GPS location script. We have a log activity line in there from the Syncro API to actually come back and this is just a random generic field in Kansas, just in case anyone gets the idea they want to go look for it. It's not the actual location where the VM lives. But yes, short answer, it can do everything that you can do in Syncro natively. Everything just works.
Great.
Yep, you can call platform variables. You can write log messages. You can that script is running on the local workstation and it has the Syncro module imported. All the framework wrapper script is doing is facilitating the storage of that script somewhere else and then bringing it in at runtime. It's aware of whether or not it's running a system. It needs to run a system. So that's actually in our public repository with the framework, we do mention that, but every script that you create in Syncro needs to be created with, needs to be run as system, and then you'll create a document that's right here at the top, I think. Yeah, set run as, oops, I don't know why that keeps happening. You want to set this run as user variable if you have a script that needs to run in the context of the user. The way we facilitate that is with a scheduled task that runs 1 minute after the wrapper script's been invoked.
Great. And those inner scripts, do they need to have, this is a very specific question, like an import module, like environment variable, like Syncro module, or do they just inherit that from that wrapper script?
They should inherit it, but we import it anyway in our production environment. So we haven't really spent too much time troubleshooting why. We've seen some instances where it seems like that module doesn't get picked up by the inner script, but you just put it in both places. It's not going to hurt anything.
Right. And then someone asked, are there instances that you find that you store scripts within GitHub, and then sometimes do you just store them directly in Syncro, or do you push everything through GitHub?
We are probably 90% GitHub at this point. We're working on conversion. The goal is to have everything in GitHub, and then have the one-to-one in Syncro in the future.
Oh, great. Someone else asked a question, it's probably more for me than for you, which is like, hey, we'd like these features natively in Syncro. When could we do that? And so more to come. I think for me, pushing out best practices like this, seeing how many folks adopt them, what types of things and value you're all getting from them are part of how we inform our roadmap. And so part of doing things like this are to watch people like Jasper who are kind of pushing the limits of the platform, and then seeing how much uptake there is from the rest of the community on things like this. All right. And then let's see. Someone asked why you need to change the token. It seems like this might be a follow-on question.
You don't have to. It's a
Okay.
read-only token, so the impact is pretty low if it does get out there in the wild. But we rotate it because if we have any customer-specific scripts, if we have anything that shouldn't but could contain identifiable information, we just want to have that extra layer of rotation. And rotating the token is literally as simple as coming into the policy and pasting a new token. Let it run for a week or two just to make sure that anything that's offline when you're trying to set it picks it up. And then you can revoke the old token in GitHub. It's probably 5 minutes of work to rotate the token.
Great. And then someone else asked, how many steps are required to execute a GitHub script from Syncro? And then where are uploaded files stored, and how does that work?
Yeah, so we actually define where the secret lives. I didn't work on that particular portion of this, but I believe it's our setter script. Yeah, so we our path is different. This is the public version that we released. Tiny bit of security through obscurity, which is not the best practice, but anyway. You can define where you want your temp directory to live. You can change the setter script to put that bin file somewhere else if you prefer. Everything is customizable. And then at the end of the wrapper script, we actually do so we decrypt the token, we store it in a variable, we run the entire payload, and then at the end we clear the variable and we delete the temp scripts.
Great. A couple questions on kind of this run as. So if someone doesn't define a run as user variable, is the script going to run as system?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
The wrapper script needs to run as system. So the encrypted access token is it's doing the local machine Windows Data Protection API encryption, and then it's actually also the folder where that file is stored is configured so that only system and local admins can touch it. So the wrapper script has to run in the context of system. If you don't define run as, then it runs as system, and if you need it to run as the local user, then you define run as.
Okay, and that's for other scripts that don't, if you have a choice, if you don't define it,
Correct.
we'll just default the system. Okay,
Yep.
great.
We do have error handling built into everything. So if you do run it as, if you came in and defined like logged in user, if the token doesn't exist, if the data protection API for some reason is not working or is not present, all of these kind of things that we could think of are handled in the framework. So you'll get error output.
All right, and then someone asked, can you call other scripts from within inside your main script? So essentially like kind of building a library that lets you reuse. Hmm.
Guess I don't understand the question. That's
Yeah, I think
kind of the whole
I
purpose.
think that's the idea, right? And so I think
Yeah.
that's right. I think that's the idea of this is like allowing you to have this kind of main wrapper script and then all of your individual scripts that are it's going to allow you to execute those and run them. So
I
great.
mean, you could, I guess, have like a single entry in Syncro of your script and just say like, no, this is uh not really name, I guess, script URL, and then you could, you could do a drop down, but that's not how we would do it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. This is one about the pat key.
Mhm.
Are they the prereqs for those available like in Windows 11 and 10 so they can you can just use them?
Yep. And then I believe we actually, let's see, we make sure we're running a system. Yeah, so we actually have a function that checks to make sure the prereqs are there, and it'll try to install them if they're missing.
Great. Great. A question just came in. Someone has a single like module script, and they said has a ton of functions in it, and so they call that at the, kind of the beginning of all of their scripts. And so using GitHub, would each of those functions have its own separate GitHub script repository? I guess it would have its own separate script in GitHub, not a separate repo, right? But yeah, I
I
don't know
mean,
if you
we
get that question.
can you read it again, or can I
I
see it
sure
somewhere?
can, or you can read it. But I have a single module script. There's a ton of functions in it. I call it at the beginning of every script. So it sounds like every script they have a single module that has a ton of functions in it. And so if they
Yeah.
wanted to move this to GitHub, would every one of those functions have its own separate GitHub script repository?
So is that module, I guess my follow-up question would be, is that module installed on every workstation with support? Because if it is, then you can just invoke it, you can just import it and run the individual functions the same way we do like with the Syncro module. I don't think, if I'm understanding the question correctly, I don't think anything changes from a usability standpoint. You import it at the beginning of whatever script is going to use some of your functions, and then it should just work.
Mhm. Oh, follow up. It's called and downloaded every time, but they're looking for more versioning of the different functions, so that way they can have versions on each of the functions.
How would I version modules? I don't know.
Huh,
If you figure it out, post it in the community. Let me know.
awesome. Um, any tips you have on organizing your GitHub repo?
Yeah. So decide what your structure is going to be and then stick to it.
So
Build
easy.
out build out folders, even if you don't think you have anything in it right now, but you might in the future. Throw it to a large language model. You'll get kind of, normalized responses. Um, but build out your folder structure and then stick to it. It's really easy to end up with, Windows/application /install/install, as user slash, like, just make it easy. Keep it simple. Build your structure and stick to it.
Great. And you used a large language model to kind of suggest a structure for you.
Um, I think we built our structure a long time
Before
ago and
that,
we've
yeah.
largely stuck to it.
But if you were
Um,
starting today, you
yeah,
might
if
do
I was
that.
starting today, I would probably start with like a Perplexity or ChatGPT or something, or Copilot, and request a folder structure, and then tweak it, with what works for your business. But once you've got it locked in, stay there.
Yeah, sounds great. Question about if you're running a script as a user, is the wrapper creating a new scheduled task, waiting for it to complete, and then
Yep.
deleting the task like before it closes down?
Yep. That's exactly right.
Great. Uh,
Yeah. From the Syncro context, Syncro is only aware that the wrapper is running, and we handle exit conditions within the wrapper itself. So it'll sit there and run for the full 10 minutes if you need it to. If you have a script that is going to take more than 10 minutes to execute, you should really be setting that anyway. Give it like a 5-minute pad or something.
Great. I have a question, says it might be nuanced, but why did you choose to put the URL on the inner script directly in the script code, like right in the wrapper script, instead of having like a drop-down variable with a value or other Syncro mechanism to load the value into the wrapper? This person's wondering if they're missing some benefit to the way you're doing it.
We do a one-to-one script entry in Syncro for every script that we store in GitHub that we want to call in Syncro. Okay, sorry, D, I have to give you a tiny criticism. If I do drop
I can
down,
take it, Jasper. It's fine.
if I define the URL here, there's nowhere for me to put any notes or name or any indication of what that is. So if I come and grab this URL, and I drop that in here, that's all my text is going to see when they try to run it, is this entire URL. So we do one-to-one anyway. It makes sense for us to just drop it here. We actually built out a function to decode that URL and grab the raw output. So we're not trying to load the entire HTML page. We're just grabbing the raw. Yeah, that's why we did it that way.
Great. And then kind of a more general high-level question, which is, what are some of the common issues that you're running into when it comes to using scripts, and any suggestions you have for folks on how to mediate them?
Oh boy.
Broad.
Yeah, common issues we see with scripts. I mean, it's pretty bulletproof now. Like as of 24H2, it's been pretty solid as long as you are running scripts that are well tested and validated for different use cases. Timeout issues. So with our Windows 11 script, we were pulling an ISO out of SharePoint, like an ISO that we knew was good. And we found some weird undocumented thing where if we tried to hit our SharePoint, our private repo where we're hosting that ISO too many times in a short amount of time, like frequency, it would just throttle us to like practically nothing, and then things would time out. But that's not really a script issue as much as it is a Microsoft issue. Yeah, I mean, test your scripts in a demo environment. We have kind of canaries at every client site, so we have like a single workstation that we'll test it on first. So, I mean, good development processes are kind of the linchpin of everything.
Great. I am out of questions for you. So exciting. And I forget, did we pause? Were you going to show anything else, or was that I think that was our end to end, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the bulk of it. If it's okay with you guys, I'll provide the link to the public repository with the wrapper and setter script and instructions on kind of how to set everything up. As far as like future improvements, if anyone finds a problem or something we're not doing well, please let me know. I would love some feedback on how to make this better. Things we've considered would be like file hashing. So kind of stamping scripts with a file hash and then comparing that later. But that's a down the line thing. This is like, what is this now, version 2.3.2? So we've iterated quite a bit to get to this point. So
yeah, that's fantastic. Jasper, thank you again for taking some time with us. I hope to everyone that attended that this was helpful. We are going to post the resources from Jasper in the community. We'll also be in there, and Jasper has been gracious enough to also hop in there and help. Feel free to share your own tips, ask questions, all of that. As I said, one of the things that I'm always looking for are ways that people are using the product, and so I can see what's working, what's not working. We use it to both help build on the product as well as just to help have a spot where folks can learn from each other. So I hope you enjoyed this. We will send you all the recording and everything will get posted. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Dee. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks, Jasper.